Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and today we're playing the Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures. So, if you don't know who the Angry Video Game Nerd is, he was originally called the Angry Nintendo Nerd. He's a moderately famous, one of the original video game critics on YouTube. He had a lot of copycats, some of which actually got a lot more popular in the early years before even he did, by just ripping them off. And he has kind of a cult following. He does good comedy bits if you like his style of comedy, at least. And when you get popular enough, then eventually somebody's gonna try to make a video game about somebody who's a video game critic. And in this case, it was Screw Attack Games, developed by Freak Zone, and Angry Video Game Nerd is part of the Cinemassacre brand, which is a couple of other things also, but mostly he started off doing this. The other thing he does now is he reviews old movies, so he's very retrospective in what he does. Before we hit start, I did want to point out though that the little circles you see by Screw Attack and AVGN do not fall in compliance with any kind of copyright size, font sizes, and so it doesn't say C. Now you don't need that little copyright symbol at all to claim copyright on something, but it does help show that you're actively defending your copyright. To do this, you've kind of shot yourself in the own foot just to maintain this 8-bit look. Let's begin. So, this is not a super complicated game as far as it is, but it does have Xbox controller support. I'm playing with the Xbox One. The Xbox One just gets detected as an Xbox 360 controller. Vertical sync I turned off, screen started in window mode, and music and volume hopefully are alright, just being left at 10. I am working right now on just making my settings balanced in a way that I don't have to change the volume or music inside of a game if the game itself is properly balanced. Over there in the lower left, you can see what the Angry Video Game Nerd looks like in his cartoon version of this game. And let's just see if this could possibly be a good game. You can see there's this zapper looking selector. So there's normal, 3 beers, 30 lives, and normal weapons and enemies, which would be, I imagine, continue. Well, wait a minute, because easy says 6 beers, unlimited tries, strong weapons, easy enemies, and then old school is 3 beers, 15 lives, 5 continues, normal weapons and enemies, checkpoints are invisible, no saving. So probably could do this on normal. Like, it seems like, depending on how this game plays, normal might work for me. However, I'm not sure I want to invest at the beginning into that idea, because I might get like an hour in the gameplay, run out of lives, and then have to start all over again. So let's just start off with unlimited tries. And it's glitching out. So the Angry Video Game Nerd and his friends. Oh, it doesn't have me hit a button to continue. So, kind of classic thing. You can see he's with the beers and the idea. He likes to cuss. He likes to do slightly dirty humor. And so now he's being haunted by the fairy from Zelda. So we've got what looks like a grid-based designed platformer. Controls feel alright so far. And apparently this toaster looking device is a checkpoint. So I guess beers are so we're gonna get a lot of cussing here, more than I kind of feel like he does nowadays. I'm not a super fan of him. I think he is covering a lot of bad games just for the sake of covering bad games, which is often popular on YouTube. Is the idea of you're not really being critical of a game, you're just instead putting yourself in pain, and it's for the entertainment of others. So the one thing I can say, this is definitely not Super Mario Brothers. It doesn't control that well. And honestly, this game does not... Oh, I guess you die if you stand on it. It almost feels like it's intentionally making the game difficult just to give you death animations. But yeah, the controls are not tight, and so that was a clear the screen with a goblin. I bet these are all quotes of bad games he has covered. You can notice that the hitbox on the character is almost exactly the same, the exact same size as the character you're playing as. And honestly, I think they failed to get the message that I get from Angry Video Game Nerd by making a bad game. Like, at a certain point, they kind of had to know. Like, another power up. See, all these power-ups are crazy, and I could see wanting to play this for about like 5 minutes, particularly if you know who the Angry Video Game Nerd is. But otherwise, I don't think you'd want to own this game. And inherently, I have to wonder if the idea... Wow. And I'm playing on easy too. I'm not... the idea is just to make a... I wonder if the idea is to make a bad video game, sell it to people who are fans, and just... Well, I guess eventually I figured out how to shoot the fairy. Like... And see, this doesn't feel like Super Meat Boy at all. It doesn't feel like a super hard game that you could become a master of if you and enjoy becoming a master of. It feels like it's just garbage. Bad game sold by the celebrity, the minor celebrity of a YouTuber. Now we have kind of like a Metroid style selection where you can fight, pick where you're gonna go next. Maybe that will give us an upgrade. But delivery is very important in comedy, and with this not being voiced by the angry video game nerd, like, all his delivery is out the window, and like it really ruins it. It just feels like I'm having to put the jokes in myself. And one might always, it's probably always worth it questioning this yourself. Like, angry video game nerd as a concept, as a character, does kind of feel like something a cynical production TV would make, like TV production or video producer would make. Like, if it came out that the angry video game nerd didn't even play video games before he became this character, it wouldn't be super surprising. Like, there's plenty of people in the video game reviewing industry that really have no interest or desire in video games, and they just are hoping it will lead to something different. And it's kind of proven out that that's exactly what he does, because it's not like he puts out a ton of new video game reviews. He does a lot more movie reviews, and I know this game is supposed to be bad, but I mean, that's really just an excuse too. Like, this game is so bad, haha, laugh at that. They're putting places where you'll almost certainly die right next to the checkpoints. Not before the checkpoints or anything. And I'd feel a little bit better if I was sold the line that this was made by fans, but like, that's easy to trick out too. I mean, any company could make a game and say it was made by fans. This has a little bit too much polish. And then I guess we need to get down to the brass tacks here, as a concept. In all realisticness, you still have to look at something like this as a video game reviewer, even a retro video game reviewer, getting in bed with the industry that they review and becoming overly friendly with the people they review. So after this whole experience, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like the Angry Video Game Nerd would have some kinder, nicer words to say about games, just because now they're part of it. We've seen this kind of happen in a few different places, with YouTube celebrities. Total Biscuit has a voice pack in StarCraft and his own game version of some kind of mod of StarCraft. Jim Sterling has been in several things and now actively is seeking to be a voice actor in video games in multiple instances. So I mean, it's just a huge conflict of interest to do something like this. And honestly, I can't see see that it's worth your credibility to introduce a conflict of interest like this by making your own game. Like, even if you don't review your own game, you're now friends. You've now had not related to review discussions with video game creators. You now have a vested interest in promoting at least one game, and you've just inherently shown that you can be bought off, and you're willing to sell your likeness for a bad, almost always bad licensed game. And yeah, I can't see myself doing this if I became super popular and people wanted it. It would just feel a little too weird. Of course, there's lots of different ways to sell out, like, and I feel like it, personally, if you were to sell merchandise of yourself that was not related to what you're criticizing, you're a little bit better. So, t-shirts and posters and things don't strike me as the same thing as being in a video game when you review video games. And see, these little skull bricks that I'm next to right now are not the same skull bricks that could hurt me. And almost every time I die here, it is around a checkpoint, or it is a really cheap instant kill. What's the point of having health if things can instantly kill you? And I know at the very least the argument is going to be that's the whole point, that this is supposed to be a bad game, but why are you forcing me to play a bad game to make me realize that bad games exist? Like, if anything, video games nerds reviews have shown that bad games exist, and the only people that would probably want to ever play this game are people who've followed his channel. Now, recently, I've been watching retro reviews or just playthroughs or talking about old Nintendo games from a much more scientific perspective, talking about how they were designed and how they were programmed, or just enjoying the good ones instead of pulling out the massive amount of bad ones. Like, maybe modern generations don't remember, but anybody who's over 20 knows that there was tons of licensed and garbage games for the early consoles. It caused the first video game crash. It certainly didn't help the boom of the second video game wave. Like, honestly, I don't know if I can do this. Like, is there a run button? Like, if these were just doing 1 damage, that'd be one thing. But it's not. I'm starting to wonder if maybe these levels are designed in such a fashion that you can't actually succeed. Because that doesn't feel like that doesn't feel doable. And see, we're 20 minutes into it and I'm already ready to rage quit. Let's see. Let's just leave. I wonder if the idea here is that none of these levels actually are defeatable. And even the sayings at the end are not really... Let's just go ahead and exit this one too. Let's just see all the levels. But... And see, this was supposed to be like an RPG and it really isn't. That's what this was labeled as. I'm not seeing any RPG elements. This feels very much like a platformer. At the very least, I would have wanted full voice acting from the Angry Video Game Nerd. That would have at least shown that he cared enough to put some full effort into it. But... Oh, so it doesn't even kill the enemies. It just kind of stuns them. I would also kind of prefer there's more of a story here, but it probably wouldn't have been much different if I had written this story. Like, being trapped to play in bad video games would be one thought I would have. The other thought is maybe do a Saw-esque thing where he's the actual Angry Video Game Nerd in live-action footage is forced to play games, and so you get these cutscenes of the actual actor in between each level being told he has to play this new game. A TV show that has long since been cancelled called X-Play did a very good couple of instances in which they parodied the movie Saw and forced people to play bad. Forced people to play really bad games. And the delay on that was really low. And it seems like they've intentionally taken all of his dirtiest lines. And so they're kind of quoting him out of context, in my opinion, because, like, he does say these funny lines every now and then, but sometimes it's just a normal sentence, too. Yeah, you're not gonna get anywhere. You're not gonna get anywhere. Let's... You're not gonna get anywhere with this game. This game is not worth owning. It's not worth playing. If you're a fan of the Angry Video Game Nerd, I guess I am. It doesn't even feel like there's really a sliding element to this. So the ice and snow. Like, now, I guess this is somewhat inaccurate representation of how the Angry Video Game Nerd acts frustrated and more irritated. And sometimes he just kind of plays it up too. He's pretending the games are harder than they really were. But there definitely were a lot of bad. There's a lot of really bad old games out there. But the worst thing you can do is cover bad games. Giving them more coverage and convincing people that maybe they do want to play it just for the lulz is no way to support the video game industry. The death of being forgotten is what bad games deserve and should get. And unfortunately, there's far too many viewers on YouTube that want to see people suffer and be miserable playing bad games instead of being happy playing good games. I certainly never enjoyed when I play a game and find out it's bad. And so in this instance, like, I am not enjoying playing this game and finding out it's bad. I was hoping that this could be something worth playing, and it just isn't. So here you have a exaggeration of some of the really bad sex games, like on Commodore 64, that really there was only a couple in the first place. Back before Nintendo kind of planted the idea that video games were for kids, there was experimentation and a lot of that sex sells mentality, but there was never anything this detailed. Yeah, and even if I wasn't like commenting and had my full focus on this game, I don't think I would get anywhere with it. Like, it feels like it's an achievement just to make it to the like first checkpoint in half of these levels. And just because you know how to do something the wrong way doesn't mean you know how to do it the right way. So it's not like this is a great commentary or depiction of a game. I suppose if this was made by a hugely well-known like developer that had made, if this was made by CD Projekt Red, who had made The Witcher 3, then maybe that would fly a little bit better, is to say, look, we've proven to the world we know how to make games, so we're just gonna make a terrible game just on a goof. And see, I think it's intentionally put me in a checkpoint place. Okay, I can actually go down further. For a second there, I thought the idea was going to be that I couldn't make it any further. And I bet you don't have the key. So I'd have to get the key, I'd have to go over here and lock that. Forget that. So one more, and then we know there's a question. There's a question mark area that's, I suppose, a final boss. It might be, I think somebody on the European Speedrunners Association has speedrun this game. and that might be worth watching, but this is not a game worth owning. And honestly, any game that is a tie-in to a famous celebrity, except for maybe the sports games, like maybe some of the Madden games are good out there, but I bet a bunch of them are bad. A lot of the wrestling games that are tied into lots of celebrities are bad. Some of them are good. It's a real mixed bag at best. But if it's a YouTuber tie-in, somebody who isn't really the pinnacle of I guess a good endorser, I don't see why you would want to buy these games. Like, you should probably avoid them like the plague if there's a YouTuber, if there's a game about a YouTuber. In general, critics don't make good games. If they did, they'd be video game producers, and they forget that. It's like, it's a different skill to criticize. Not one isn't better than the other, but there are people who can evaluate and criticize things, but have no skill in creating them themselves. And over again, we see that's the case. And there is just this inherent, I didn't even know you could do angled shots, desire, for some reason in the video game industry particularly, to break down those barriers between critic and creators. It happens a lot more with the bigger companies. Every single, like, E3 or PAX, the creators of some video games are hanging out drinking with the critics of their games, so that everybody's just in this kind of incestuous relationship that, I mean, really shouldn't happen. If I was running a big review site, I would absolutely day one impress upon people to not have any communication other than official communication with video game creators, probably all through email and all carbon copied to either me as the boss or a human resources department. Like, I would not encourage anybody to get in bed with the video game industry if you're criticizing it. In the same way I wouldn't encourage banking regulators to get in bed with banks and have a friendly relationship or worse. It just has the smell of impropriety, and we need more propriety, if that's a word. And this game just has the smell of stink. Like, so, like, here's one thing you can kind of wonder is, was this really originally an Angry Video Game Nerd game? Or was this just a video game company needed to dump a bad game and they knew they could make a few more sales by using his name as an endorsement? Because it kind of feels like it was a bad game that should have never been released, and yet it got released because of this pact between two entities, Screw Attack Games, Freak Zone, and Angry Video Game Nerd / Cinemassacre. And this really is something that shouldn't exist, and it's kind of a black mark on the credibility of the Angry Video Game Nerd. Like, if he can put his name on this awful, terrible game, and then then should you really be trusting him when he says other games are good or other games are awful? Like, does he have an objective opinion or any kind of opinion that's worth listening to? Because this is his offering. On the other hand, if this was an amazingly good game, I guess maybe you would think, oh, well, he really does know what he's talking about. He allowed his name on a really good game. But it doesn't really help your credibility much, even in that instance, because you've still sold out. Yeah, and I just don't think people should do this. If you're a video game critic, you need to be a video game critic for life. You can never change. You can never go work in the industry. You can go do other jobs, not related to video games, certainly, but once you cannot cross that line from critic to creator in any aspect at all, because you destroy your credibility. You can never go back to being a critic and be trustworthy. And even if you leave all that alone and ignore that, this is still a bad game, and I wouldn't recommend anybody play it. That's gonna be it for this. I guess I'm gonna call it a spotlight because I'm not gonna play anymore. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.